I am absolutely delighted to welcome the PwC GAA GPA Player of the Month for September, Conor Meyler, to Off the Ball. Conor, how you doing?
I'm good. Good. Tired, but good.
Good, man. I was annoying you a wee bit the week after the All-Ireland final. I was trying to get you on the show, and we said we'd catch up at some stage, but the phrase you kept using was you wanted to let it soak in. Did you manage to let that happen over the last couple of days?
I did, yeah. Especially the first 3, 4 days after. Tried to avoid as much media duties as I could to just try and let things soak in. Going into the game, I'd sort of said to myself, just try and enjoy all the moments, because it really is. It's moments over medals. Like, it's soaking all those things in. So even on the way into the game, the fans and trying to smile and wave in the parade and all, you're smiling and looking at the crowd, and then afterwards, especially that final whistle, and sitting on the grass would be hard down by the hill, just looking around, thinking this is incredible. And I suppose a few days in the beer too, just trying to take all that in and spend time sitting chatting to fellas individually as well, and taking yourself probably back at times to observe, and it's just been incredible. It's so hard to sum up.
It's interesting to hear that on the way to the game that you were cognizant of that. Did you feel like 2018 passed you by in a way in that sense? I know that you had a serious battle back then to get fit. Like, for anyone who doesn't remember, you'd broken your leg. Was it your tibia? You broke a bone in your leg in the last Super 8s game. I think it was a 12, 13, 15-week turnaround. You were back within 3 or 4 weeks. Did you find like the 2018 experience, did it pass you boys by in Tyrone a wee bit?
Personally, I didn't enjoy it because I was at home here trying to get myself right, and I just probably shut myself off in that sense, and just wanted to focus on get myself ready for the game. And probably as a team, it's other fellas' experience will be different than mine, who were in the bubble and that training, and the whole media duties and everything that goes along with the occasion outside of the game. Maybe we got caught up on the occasion rather than the game, and this year, just made sure to focus on the game, and that was the priority. And me just learning to relax and enjoy things, because I could have picked it up to be something bigger than it was, and being so driven that you overthink too much and overanalyze things, and next thing you know, it passes you by. So I was very cognizant of just soaking in all the moments, and that's what you're going to remember then for years to come. So, to say, just smiling and waving at people on the way in, and you
Yeah.
never were doing in previous years, because you were just so focused with the headphones on and getting yourself psyched up, and even walking around the pitch beforehand. All those moments, and that's what I'll remember.
Brilliant. Andy Moran does a podcast with us here on Off the Ball, and he spoke about the pre-match parade and loving that and learning to take it in. Andy got to that stage, I think, a little later in his career than you did. What were you doing in that parade? Were you actually looking around the crowd trying to spot faces you could see, or how did you carry yourself in the parade? It actually felt like I've been going to GA games all this summer. That was a real moment, that parade, the noise going around the stadium. It was great. Even though there's 40,000 there, it felt like you were at an event.
Yeah, it was insane. And again, comparing it to 2018, I had my head down, focused on the job at hand. Whereas, last week, looking around the crowd, I was sort of smiling at times, playing about with a water bottle. I watched the final with the Limerick boys, and I was chatting with one of the guys as well, and he was sort of saying about smiling and laughing in the parade, and he went out and performed, and I just thought, he's got it spot on. Like, it is just a game at the end of the day, and soak up the occasion. Never mind the other aspects of just wasting the energy by being nervous and the heart rate's pounding. I just thought, if I can just keep myself calm, low, reserved, and then once the ball's thrown in, then we can spike it then.
Since the All-Ireland final, so it's about 8 or 9 days since, you did a brilliant piece with Thomas Niblock on the GA Social, and I think it struck a lot of people. And I think you were speaking to maybe Declan Bogue afterwards as well. And I think for the first time in a long time, we started to see what it meant to win an All-Ireland, because the Dubs had won 6 in a row. So it just became a bit of par for the course that they were adding another one to the title. So we weren't learning many new things about the Dubs as the years went on. For you boys, it seemed a little bit like a release valve went off, that you were able to, I'm not saying relax, but is there a bit of relief there when the All-Ireland, the whistle goes and you know that you have an All-Ireland medal in your back pocket? No matter what happens, you've won an All-Ireland medal.
Huge relief. Relief's a good word to use, because I think we've always been capable, and we knew we were capable of winning All-Ireland, and to actually get over the line, it's like, wow, that actually just happened, and nobody can take that away from you. And especially for the likes of Matty Donnelly, Peter Hart, some of the boys who've soldiered for years, like two warriors, like who've been through thick and thin and carried Tyrone through games, to know that they've got an All-Ireland medal this class. And then you've got the rest of the older brigade. They'll not like maybe call them old, but Ronan McNamee's and the Morgans and Tyrone McCann, Ronan O'Neill and boys like that who've been about for a long time as well. You know, great to see them boys get the reward they deserve as such, and with their All-Ireland medal.
Can we talk a wee bit about your role? Because I think as the summer went on, people started realising what it is that Conor Meyler does. And I actually think that even your All-Ireland final performance might have caught a few people by surprise, because like your kick passing ability really came to the fore in that game, whereas people were talking a lot about how you had nearly stopped the main man in a lot of the previous games. Like the roll call is Martin Riley against Cavan, it's Ryan McHugh against Donegal, it's Paddy Clifford against Kerry, and Paddy Durkin against Mayo. But like, you've often been tasked with going out with a job. What's that like as a player when you know that your manager's going to turn around to you and say, you have a job this week, this is who you're taking on? Is that added pressure, or is that something that you enjoy as a footballer?
Don't know if I particularly enjoy it. At the end of the day, everybody wants to play football and go out and probably express themselves and play pretty freely, but it's something that's going to benefit the team, like, and it's probably that selfless act of doing the dirty work, and keeping an opposition key player.
You must get a wee bit of sick enjoyment out of it, though.
I was laughing at stages in All-Ireland final. I think that was more just me trying to enjoy the whole thing. But no, it is pretty selfless, because you know you don't get the opportunities in usually on the front foot, and I think that was a big change I made in the last 2 years, was trying to put players in the back foot and to really get to show my own game, and it's difficult to do that when you're being so tight and marking so tightly. And in previous games over the years, you can get caught out if you lose the ball and you've already gambled and gone. So I found the balance this year pretty well in marking close and tight, and then also being able to offer a wee bit more going forward. And I had a lot of kick passes in the semi-final and the final, and that's just backing myself a wee bit more too, and sort of saying, you know, have a go. And even, you know, I felt comfortable coming up 1-to-1 and sidestepping men and going and that, and I just felt comfortable on the ball this year too. And I suppose that just comes with confidence. And I say I was glad that it was nice to actually get a bit of recognition too at times, because over the years you're doing that and nobody really picked up on it. And it was never in the search of individual accolades or anything, because the stuff you're doing, it is selfless. And even, you know, things that people don't see, it's maybe tracking 100 yards just to try and put a block onto somebody, or to put in a tackle somewhere. And those are probably the things that, when you add it up, are hugely important in a team sport and a team game to make the difference than the fancy scores. So I'll let McCurry and McShane and boys hit the fancy scores, and I just set it up for them.
Well, the Dazzler was certainly kicking the fancy scores all this year. But just a wee bit more on the man-marking role, Conor, because I find it interesting, because when you think of it in I suppose, traditional sense, when you think of a man-marker, you're thinking of Paddy Hampsey, say, taking out a corner forward, or Ronan McNamee going up against David Clifford, or even I remember Lee Keegan. There were some brilliant pieces done on him back in 2016-17, where he man-marked Sean Kavanagh, Shane Walsh, and the stats were Keegan scored 1-2 and he kept them scoreless from play. But to me, they strike me as quite different footballers to the lads that you were taking down. Paddy Clifford's a link player who's the glue to that Kerry attack. He's getting the ball all over the pitch. Ryan McHugh is very much the same. He's the lifeblood of that Donegal attack. how are you meant to stop a fella like that? Because it strikes me that it would be much easier that you're in the corner, you can look him up, he's going to dummy on his left or Clifford's little hop dummy on his right, whatever about all the video analysis, how good that does you. But how do you prepare to take on a player who's looking to get on the ball all over the field like Paddy Clifford or Paddy Durkin?
It's tough. It is tough, and you're up against some of the best in Ireland, really, and you sort of have to accept sometimes that these boys are going to score or they're going to get possessions. These guys are getting 30 plus possessions in a game, and I can only limit them so much. So it's a case of accepting that in one sense, and two, probably do my detail. I'd be quite diligent and in the work I do in preparation. So you're watching between 50 and 100 clips of these guys, so you're watching games anyway. And
what are you looking for there?
Just tendencies, things that they maybe tend to do. Dummies, if they're late runs, things like that. That maybe if I am aware of it before the game, then you're more conscious of it and you're reacting to it rather than thinking, because during the match you don't have time to think. You're just reacting, and the more time you spend doing that early in the week, I found, and then in training trying to mark maybe similar style players helps, because one week you're playing wing forward on Paddy Durkin, then the following, the week before you're sort of centre back, and then in other games you're standing full back at times. So that's all in the preparation. And I think even just coming into the game, then it's more a case of accepting things and surrendering, in the sense of, I don't know what's going to happen here, and I've done the work, and relax and just sort of say, let's see what happens, and whoever comes out on top, may the better man win as such. But I like that battle. Like I do,
Yeah.
I do enjoy a battle as such, and knowing that, right, let's go to war here and see who comes out on top, and I can accept that. Sometimes these boys are going to score, and sometimes they're going to get chances, and
Yeah.
if I'm just keep at it, and chip away, then hopefully break them down. Like
that was some battle with Clifford, and he kept going till extra time. You stuck with him, but like as Kerry were, some of the players maybe were falling away a wee bit. He kept going, so that battle was going on for the full game, and I didn't actually notice it at the time. But after the game, I was going back just looking for an image from the game. We were doing a piece in the show the next day, and I put in Paddy Clifford, and everywhere Clifford went, you were there. I don't know if you searched the photos in Sports Wild, but there's about 20 photos of you just pawing him or pulling him or winning the ball before him or just going ahead of him. And then afterwards, Paddy Andrews was speaking about it. And I think it was Paddy, or could have been one of the lads. I confuse them all the time. But Clifford misses that shot on goal, the hand pass towards the end of extra time. And you can only see it in the reverse camera shot, but you're on the sideline and you just go, yes. I don't know if you're shouting in his face or you're shouting to yourself, but it was a massive moment.
Yeah, like that for me is just, that's as good as a score for me. That's like job done. Like, that's another small battle one, as a sense, put him under enough pressure that the fist went wide. So as I say, that's where I get my joy out of. Like it's
The oxygen.
it's things like that. It's making tackles, turnovers, possessions. That's what I'm basing my game on. So um it's small wins like that. Not to his face, because after the game was over and I was very complimentary of him and what a season he's had, and he'll be back better. Without a doubt, he's one of the best there is. And the same even in the final, you're nearly going over and thanking Paddy Durkin as such for a battle, because that's what you want. I don't think when you're at the elite end, you don't want easy games. There's something nice about a battle, and to come out on top of it. So you're nearly thanking these boys for a tough game, and nearly like, I'll see you again in the future sort of thing, because like inevitably, like, future games, like them boys could toast me, like, and I just have to accept that. So yeah, small wins.
I was speaking to Kieran McGeary in the tunnel under Crow Park after the game, after the All-Ireland final, and we had a word about McShane, and he said the big man delivers on the big days. So Conor McShane is only on the pitch, I'd say, a minute, and Paddy Hampsey's coming down the line and he gives you that hand pass. Now, I don't know how many times you've watched this goal back, but I've watched it back a few times. The second you receive the ball, I think it's in your left hand, McShane does his backdoor cut and he's pointing the other way. Now, we know the winners write the scripts. We've been looking at Conor O'Callaghan doing this backdoor cut and Kilkenny giving him the hand pass for the last 7 or 8 years. Do you know McShane is making that cut before you receive that ball? Are you thinking he's on, let's go direct. This is my chance to show my football and take a chance here? Because it was a brilliant ball, but you know yourself, it's an All-Ireland final. It's the second half. Scores are hard to come by. You are taking a risk there with that pass.
Yeah, and that's kind of like when you're in that sort of flow or the zone as such, you're not thinking. And I wasn't thinking there. Like, I wasn't thinking about the crowd or the score or anything. That was something. Gal's not short of confidence. Like, he's constantly, I'll just tell you, put the ball in on top of me. And I just seen the cut, literally just got it, seen the cut, and just thought, let's put it in on the big man and see what he can do. And thankfully, the flight of the ball, it landed close enough to the keeper and it went in. But that game was just backing myself, having the courage to just go for it. And, I had a lot of kick passes in that game and a number of assists where I was just like, just go for it. And
did you give Derek Canavan a wee bit of stick for not burying that goal as well?
Who, sorry?
Did you give Derek Canavan a bit of stick for not burying that goal?
He's too likeable to give him sticks. But again, that's just, as I say, just go for it, and I can accept whatever really happens after. In the past, it was so tense and tight that I was overthinking everything and overanalyzing things, and now just knowing that you remind yourself sometimes it is just a game, and it's the same game you've been playing since you were 14, 15 aside, whoever scored more wins, and that's it. Like, and sometimes we overanalyze and overhype it, and me, I'd have been the worst for it, the worst overthinker, and now to just sort of be like, let's see what happens. It's very refreshing, and it's definitely helped me that I can sort of look in the mirror after a game and sort of say, you've done all you can do, and that's it. That's life. Life goes on. Yeah, I think for just reminding myself of those things this year has been powerful.
You've spoken about the Man in the Glass poem that you've referenced a few times, and I know you were speaking afterwards as well about authenticity and vulnerability and using them and finding them. I want to come back to that in a second, but you mentioned a kind of flow state there as the ball came to you. Like, I'm fascinated with that when it comes to sports people, and you see it when a fella's knocking a putt, or maybe someone's taking a key kick in rugby or something. Were you in a flow state for that whole All-Ireland final, or is it just moments? Like, I know it's hard to quantify, but like, you did feel it that time, did you?
Yeah, like, I don't know, in team sport it is really interesting topic, and like I enjoy reading and delving into things like that, the sports psychology side of things. And I read a really good book this year called In the Zone, and it references a lot of things like that and trying to find the zone, and people find it in different ways. Arden Senna, the F1 driver, talked about nearly feeling like an out-of-body experience where he was watching himself drive the car, things like that. I think the big difference in team sport and a match like in Gaelic football, you can't be in the zone the whole time because it's stop, start, play, and then you get your water breaks, your half time and stuff. But there's definitely moments where you just react, and you don't have time to think, especially in a game like that. People look like they've got time on the ball, but you don't have time to think. So in that moment, it was literally just first thought. It was a very quick glimpse that Cal made the cut, and I thought, just go for it. So, as I say, it's something Cal will be backing himself all year under a high ball. If it was somebody different, he might have played a different style of ball, but thankfully it paid off too.
When it comes to authenticity and vulnerability, they aren't two traits that you'd immediately associate with, on a surface level anyway, top level sports people. Like, how did that click that you needed to tap into that? Like, because listening to you, and I know you're in a really good place to your football now, but like, you've had challenges over the years where you didn't make minor squads, or perhaps you played a bit of reserve football when you were younger, or you maybe just didn't feel like you were possibly getting the best that you could have got out of yourself. When did it click for you that you needed that?
Authenticity, vulnerability stuff is probably something I've only learned this year. And there's a guy, give him a shout out now on Instagram. He's Drew Broughton, calls himself the fear coach, and I would have looked at his work It's so different than what everybody else is talking about. And it's literally just that idea of acceptance, vulnerability, authenticity, that deep authenticity of who are you really as a person. And delving into that stuff is deep, and it's actually tough to be completely honest with yourself at times. But you sort of find that people respect you more when you are yourself. You can't keep everyone happy, and at the end of the day, not everyone's going to like you either. So
Mm.
when you're comfortable in your own skin, it's refreshing because I like my own company as it is. So just knowing that I can spend time by myself and be happy and content, it's great. And but the whole idea of the progress from there to now, I know I spoke about it somewhere else, just that like my dad would have managed some of the underage teams from the club, um, and the team a year above he would have put me in the B team because I wasn't good enough for the A team, and they were off playing all the top teams, winning championships, and I was playing in the lower divisions, just to get game time, and I used to hate it like because my friends were all playing on the other team, and we're both heading off to football, and I'm jumping on one bus, he's jumping on another, my dad. And then obviously come through to sort of senior level, and dad was managing the senior team, and I got a lot of flack for only playing your dad as the manager sort of stuff. And even around the time, the year before, I came on as a sub in the reserve championship. I was doing a lot of cross country and running and stuff, and probably physically wasn't developed enough, and you had a lot to work on in terms of my physique and everything as well to go with Gaelic football. So when I decided I'm definitely going down that route, I just put everything into it. And in the space of 2 years, from 18 to 20, say not making that minor team, I was gutted and I had a chip on my shoulder. I wanted to sort of prove even to people in my clubs that within for teams I wasn't making and the rest, and then that minor team that I can kick on. And at 20, I was playing in the All-Ireland semi-final against Kerry, the youngest player in the pitch that day, and played five championship games that year for Tyrone. Was drafted straight in for the championship. So like it was a bit surreal, but that sort of idea of a chip on your shoulder and this idea of I could outwork everybody by running to the gym, crawling under the fence and doing a session, then running home and like a 1 mile time trial nearly before and after. I was just so driven, but I couldn't sustain it because at inter-county level, you try to do the extra training outside of training, it just breaks you down, and you're playing college football and club football at the time. And I just kept getting injured, 2016, really. And that was really tough, like. And then a bit of a turnaround at 17, won the Sigerson and was captain. We won the club championship and Tyrone won Ulster. And from then, we've been a bit of a regular within the team. But say just taking it to that next level this year was really doing that deep authenticity work and the work with Drew. So,
Well, you mentioned the older boys a little earlier, and we won't name them again because you might get a bit of stick for it. But I know you're studying leadership, and just a couple of questions on that before we finish up. But when did you feel like you could be yourself in that Tyrone dressing room? Like that hardly happened when you first broke in.
When I first broke in 2015, my mindset was very much, I'm here to take jerseys. Like, I'm here to start, I'm here to play, I don't really care about anybody. And then you probably fall into second year syndrome of maybe want to be liked and appreciated by boys, and that maybe filtered into 17 and 18 where you just wanted to be part of a team. And I think in every team, everybody just wants to feel that safety of being part of something. So probably chasing that at times and losing track of myself, and that's where the man in the glass comes into things then too. So the last couple of years have probably just, especially this year, and when I say this, it's not like a total transformation of a person. Like I've always been myself, but just on a deeper level now, I just have a better understanding, and I'm content going and doing my own thing at times. If other fellas want to go and do something else, I don't feel the need to always join in. Like, so whatever I want to do, I do, and I know my body better now, which is a big thing. Physiologically, how much load I can tolerate, and in terms of injury prevention work that has helped me this year, and different mobility work and working with different coaches and for different things, and breathing and how my body moves more efficiently, all the rest, adding all those wee bits to my game this year has definitely taken it to another level. But as I say, I still feel like I was playing well over the years, but you maybe got a wee bit more recognition now. People started to maybe see things differently, and obviously being more offensive, um, and being a bit braver. Small tweaks has made a big difference.
Conor, when Netflix dropped The Last Dance last year, we all got very excited. There wasn't a huge pile for any of us to be doing at the time, but anyone interested in sport got very excited about it, and we all got stuck into it. Kieran Donaghy did a podcast with us here in Off the Ball with Owen Sheehan and Jarlath Regan, so we were chatting about it every week. But I hadn't actually copped the blog post you'd written about it on your LinkedIn. But there's a line in it that I thought was really interesting. Within the GAA, I would find it harmful to encourage players to be like Mike. Can you talk to us a wee bit about that? Because I think you're right in the sense that anyone who comes off something like that, you're like, look at what Jordan did. Look at how he is. Why would you encourage players to not be like Mike?
Well, he was a tyrant, wasn't he? Like he was just, the thing is too, he was so intense on the court that he got so much wrong off it. And I think when you try to emulate other people like that, there is no comparison really with what we do in the GAA to the professional basketballer like him. Lifestyle, everything else, like you would have to put your whole life on hold and really be an unpleasant person, as well put it in a nice way, to everyone else and everyone else around you. And I just don't think that's sustainable in the GAA in a team environment of a squad of 30. To be the alpha male, the macho, the I am the best, the greatest, just give me the ball all the time. I just don't think it works in the GAA, and my concern was that people would look up to after the documentary were all on high, and it was great to see the mindset of an elite athlete, but you also see the dark traits as well, with the narcissistic traits and stuff that he was and him and Tiger Woods are the same in that sense, where they had to really, they're authentic in a sense that they're being themselves. They don't care what anyone else thinks, which you can take something from that. But at the same time, I would value being a good person as much as being a good footballer as well. And to have longevity in the GAA, I think you need to be a good person, because GAA is more than just the game. It's the community, it's the families, it's what it does for your club, your surrounding towns, villages. There's more to it, and I think being a good person within the GAA community is as important as playing as well. So that's why I don't think that mindset and that attitude that Jordan had would be sustainable in that environment.
When you're talking about the club and the community, Joe McMahon was one of the first people to embrace you on the pitch in Croke Park afterwards. I presume yourself and your dad have had a couple of nice moments, and the family have had a couple of nice moments since as well.
Yeah, well, the family is the first people I went looking for, because at the end of the day, they're there for you all year and every year and through every moment, good and bad, when you're getting sick, when you're everything else, they're there for you, and they love you and they care for you. So I think that's the most important thing. After a big win or a final, everybody wants to be your friend, but the family were there for you all year. So that was important to go to them, and then to see Joey is just class, because like Joey was my idol growing up as a cub, and I have a photo with Joey and Sam in the house, where he's towering over me, and must have been younger than 10, like, and just in awe of him and what he achieved. So have a role model like that within our club, and Justy too. Justy's a legend, and I do look up to those boys still, because what they achieved was so significant for our club. That's now I hope that what myself and Ronan have done, it will inspire some of the younger boys within the club to just be like, sure, there's Conor and Ronan, like we see them training we see them down the club there, down the cafe, and I can do that as well. And that's the thing with winning All-Ireland too. You've hopefully inspired the next generation. But like even Joe's just a good person, and so is Justy. They're good, kind people, and they would have been texting me before games and after games over the years, even when they're not involved. So even for me to get a chance to play them at senior level in the club was a dream, and then Tyrone senior, play with the boys for a couple of years. It's surreal to look back at, the wee photo of me and Joe and Sam, like, to think of what we've come through together.
That's class. Last one. I'd be very excited looking at next year's GAA Gaelic football season, especially when you're thinking Derek Hannivan's only a kid. We haven't seen the best of him yet. Conor McKenna's home. He's only really given you moments this year. And I know he's probably, he says himself, he hasn't got the best out of him, which is a scary proposition. And we know the big man, McShane, has only given you fits and bursts so far this year, and he's not fully back to fitness. You're someone who strikes me is obsessed with improving as a footballer all the time. You spoke earlier on about wanting to show your football skills as well as stopping players. What's next for Conor Meyler?
Good question.
You've soaked it in now, so you got to move on to the next one.
Bit of downtime, I think, still needed. But, geez, good question. What's next? I still will be critical of myself regardless. There was still moments, I'd like to be more involved still, but maybe people are more aware now as well, so my game might have to change. But again, it's that selfish thing of whatever Farrell and Brian ask you to do, you're willing to do it. I do think as a collective we have a lot more in us, and we've only played in spells this year, especially offensively. Defensively, we've been very sound. Ronan, Michael McKiernan and Paulie, and Michael probably hasn't got as much credit as he deserves because he's been sensational this year too. But offensively, I think we have a lot more in us when you talk about the players you've listed there. And I say boys not making the 26 even, they could have just been awesome in training, that they're going to want to kick on now as well. There's going to be younger fellas in the 20s and minors who are going to want to come through as well. So I think Tyrone's in a good place, definitely. People talk about us being hunted now. I very much see us as the hunters still, and we're chasing the All-Irelands of the Kerrys and the Dublins, and I think that's we do have more in us, and hopefully we get to show that, because it would be easy to get carried away now, and we're very lucky to have the likes of Brian, Pete Donnelly, who will without a doubt not let us get too far ahead of ourselves. So I do think it's important to soak it all in and to enjoy it, because these opportunities might come around again. We just don't know with football, and that's the crazy thing with it, and that's what makes it even more special winning, was you achieve something that you trained for so long for, and you failed and you failed and you failed, and you finally come back again and do it. So yeah, I think we'll soak it all in before we start thinking about next year, but it's going to be hard to top it.
Conor Meyler, congrats on winning the PwC GAA GPA Player of the Month for September, and congratulations on winning your first All-Ireland medal.
Thank you very much, Tommy.